button has been pressed. We're live from New York City. No, we're not. We're not in New York. I would never go to a hell place like that. I'm kidding.
I don't mind New York. It's not bad. I don't like the city, but I love the state, if that
Ah.
makes any sense. Uh,
So,
Albany's nice.
um, everyone welcome. This is, the next stream in our series of, turning not just League of Legends, but at the moment it's League of Legends, various creatures and characters from other properties and turning them into fightable, usable, and runnable uh, creatures in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. With me is my friend Coffee Merc.
What up, people?
And tonight is Fiddlesticks, the Ancient Fear. Um,
Oh,
a little bit of history. Fiddlesticks was sort of a really goofy character for quite a while. The voice was very silly. Um, but they changed him. Let's see, when did this video come out? In 2020, so a couple of years ago. They did an absolutely amazing rework, and we're gonna watch the trailer for Fiddlesticks. Um, Terror in Demacia, which is the video that was posted to sort of hype him, essentially. So sit back, relax, and this is a horror video. So if you're not a fan of horror, maybe mute until the video's done because it's pretty wild. Here we go.
A full tankard in a warm tavern was the plan. Not extra watch.
Whole countryside's on edge after Fuss Barrel.
Yeah. Filthy mages. They show up here. They show up here, and I'll come. Tedric? Hey, Tedric! Tedric!
Help me!
super spoopy.
So that's Fiddlesticks. As you can see, way different than the OG Fiddlesticks. I didn't come up with any stuff for that, but trust me, he was kind of his laugh was very like I'm spooky. It was, yeah. So the redesign is terrifying, as you can see here, this image. Let me just pull this. Whoop, there we go. So we're gonna do what we've done before and make Fiddlesticks a creature that both the GM can enjoy running, potentially as a solo monster, but where players are and players playing as their characters, they get this the vibe of the character feels like what the character is. Um, and the other goal is that people who have played League of Legends or who know the lore, this is just a bonus. That they'll go, oh hey, Fiddlesticks in D&D is doing the things that he does in game. I recognize this, and it lets them, sort of enjoy it a little bit more. It's like a little bonus, but the main goal of this is to make an interesting monster because here on the channel. We like interesting things. So how do we usually do this? I guess we just start looking at the abilities.
Well, yeah, and there's some pretty interesting abilities there. A harmless scarecrow. I have some ideas on that. Um, Basically replaces his trinket with the ability to create scarecrow effigies. And they have various effects on sensory abilities of characters in League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
But in D&D terms, I really think that it should make Fiddlesticks like undetectable, at least without a action based perception check.
Well, that's where our friend the search action comes in, which we've talked about it before. In D&D 5th edition, people forget this. If you want to make a perception check on your turn in combat, that's the search action.
Hmm?
And it's exactly what it sounds like. It gobbles up your action. So don't say, oh, can I make a perception check? And then if you don't spot anything, oh, okay, I'll attack. Nope, that's it. That's all you get. So I'm glad you have some ideas about a harmless scarecrow, because I was thinking all week since last week when we said that Fiddlesticks was going to be next on the list. I've been racking my brains trying to figure out how it would be implemented, but I got nothing. So I'm glad that you
So
have some things in mind.
I have two main ideas. The first one, he creates the effigy,
Mm-hmm.
which is a physical object, and it just exists. He creates it where he last was, in the square that he last was, and then he turns invisible and he vanishes. Right?
Ah, yeah.
He So that's one way to play it. The other way to play it is he is the effigy,
Okay.
and so he'll want to escape line of sight, create this effigy, and or turn himself into this effigy, and then the players have to roll to detect
Right.
that search roll. And if they don't detect, they might still decide to prod him with a stick or a sword or whatever,
10-foot pole, baby.
but he's not going to react until they're certain
Mm-hmm.
or until their backs are turned. Totally Fiddlesticks MO there.
Very much. Very much so. So that's one of the things that I'm thinking in you mentioned it last week, in a future stream where we sort of recap things. I think an important thing that we should start doing is writing down in these so that when people find them on Gembinder or just using them, we have a section written in that's called like intended design, so that instead of just giving someone a stat block and us saying to GMs, okay, you go use it. Okay, well, how? What sort of, say, environment? What sort of environment is this character in? So for Fiddlesticks, 100% you want to be in a place where there are corners and walls, bushes, an old cabin that players are investigating, very, very haunted house style.
A an overgrown farm field.
An overgrown farm field, absolutely. How fun would that be? Where you're in this big field and you plonk down the battle mat, and the players go, "Oh, okay, there's gonna be a fight here." And anyone who thinks about it for more than a couple of seconds is gonna go, "Okay, there's gonna be some like scarecrow thing, right? It's gonna be a living scarecrow because that is a thing. I believe they introduced it in I think Curse of Strahd. I think there are animated scarecrows in that." And
Mhm.
people who maybe don't know me or you, or haven't watched this, or just don't know League of Legends, they may not realize that no, this isn't just going to be some scarecrows. Um, and then you could have, say, the terrain. You can see only in 5 foot increments, regardless of your sight abilities. Maybe if you have like tremor sense, that would change things around a little bit. But I think of an episode from Love, Death, and Robots where this character gets off a train to have a cigarette, and he sees like a glow in this field on this huge overgrown field on either side of the train where it stopped. And he's told, "Hey, don't go there because the train will be leaving soon." He goes in there anyway out of curiosity, and he can't see anything. He ends up getting chased by some sort of otherworldly horde of monsters, and eventually he gets on the train and gets away. But I want that sort of vibe to be what you hit your players with. Because describing it as being scary is one thing, but actually limiting their character's abilities, just their senses, is going to make them terrified. Because players love their characters. They don't want bad things to happen to them. Apart from you and I, maybe. So that could work. Um, yeah. So this was part of his rework actually. His original passive ability. At one point it was called Paranoia. For no good reason, because how it worked was, uh, enemy creatures around Fiddlesticks would have lowered magic resistance. This is talking about the video game, of course. Why is that called Paranoia? There's no reason for that to be called it. Then
Mm.
they updated it a little bit to where if he is standing still for 1.5 seconds or longer, the next time he moves anywhere, you know, right click somewhere, he gets a burst of movement speed, which is really good for his ult because he spends 1.5 seconds channeling it. So you channel it, and then suddenly you can move around really quickly. They changed it for the better, I think, with this rework, and made it a lot more horror, a lot more suitable and thematic. Um, so you've got his primary ability. It might seem like it's his third ability, it's his primary ability, but his primary ability, his meat and potatoes, is Terrify. It's a fear ability. There's not a lot to it. That's what it is. Um, but I think we need to figure out a way to make it really potent. Really potent. Because this is a sort of ability that he would open a fight with.
Okay.
So what notes do you have? Because I know you've been doing some brain cooking during the week. What have you got down for Terrify?
So for Terrify, I've got a couple things. Um, First is the direct damage,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Honestly, because this is such a key ability for him, uh, read that as one he's going to be using first and often. Um, I think it should hit like a cantrip of appropriate level.
Yeah. Like what is that, like vicious mockery, psychic damage?
It could be psychic, could be, whatever type of elemental damage we want to end up using. Um, but it should hit about the same power as a cantrip, just something he can do every round.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now the fear, right? Um, the what is it, the frightened condition? I
Right.
do think there should be a save for that.
Yep.
And I think that while a harmless scarecrow is in effect, that the person who uses it on should have disadvantage to that saving throw.
Either that or maybe the DC goes up because disadvantage is pretty hardcore. In older editions, you've got you have -1 to the save, you have -2 to the save. Disadvantage in fifth edition is pretty potent. So
Yeah.
once we've written out some of the DC, some of the damage, some of the effects of how it goes, we can discuss exactly what kind of interactions that a harmless scarecrow has. Because it would be kind of neat. You saying that makes me think maybe while a harmless scarecrow is out, while he has an effigy active, all of his abilities work differently. Like they have a base version, and then they have a if an effigy is present, X happens.
Okay. That would actually be a good way to build these abilities.
Because then it
Uh,
would, once the players pick up on that, they would have to decide: are we going to destroy his effigies, or are we just going to try and deal damage to him or it? Um, so yeah, that could work quite nicely. Bountiful Harvest. Fiddlesticks stays still. This is in the game. He stays still, and as you can see, he tethers to all as many creatures as are near him in range. Which, by the looks of that, converting to D&D Fifth Edition, I would say it's about 15 feet. It's a fairly big range. It's always a lot longer than you think um, when you're playing against him. You think that you're far enough away, but you never are. And he deals a bunch of damage, and he drains their health. And if it lasts for the entire duration, it deals extra damage based on their, I believe, maximum health. So it's very, very good against high health targets. So we might be able to play with that a little bit, like play with the bloodied condition again. We pull that from fourth edition quite a bit. You know, if a creature is at half hit points or below, they take extra damage because their life force is their life essence is already being beaten out of them, and so this hurries that along. What had you have what had you written down for this?
so this is an ability that I really didn't put too much thought into because it's kind of straightforward. I mean, the fact that it's a burst ability, right? I mean, just to borrow some fourth edition uh, terminology, um, it's going to have a wide area of effect. Maybe not huge, but 5, 10 feet,
Yep.
maybe 15. Um, it's going to deal moderate damage, but it's going to be a channeled or a concentrated ability.
Right.
Um, so I'm thinking maybe it has some movement impairment to it,
Could be, yeah.
or a save to break the link, or maybe you have to break his concentration to break the link. But you want to break that link
100%.
because the longer he holds it, the less of you there is to save.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. Um,
uh, Now, that trailer, just to go back to that for a second, there is another ability that I've added into my list here based on the trailer and how Fiddlesticks is supposed to operate,
mm-hmm.
and that's mimicry.
Right.
Fiddlesticks can mimic the speech of any creature he's killed, as long as that creature has a language which it can speak,
Mm-hmm.
and then a DC of blah 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 to disbelieve.
Right.
Um, I'm not sure. That'd probably be a wisdom save, but yeah, he's a tricky little bugger, and I think we should incorporate that.
Yeah, definitely. However, there's in the game, it's very obvious that it's not that person, but I think that might just be for the audience. But for the players, you're gonna have lines such as, well, let me demonstrate the sorts of things that he has for yourself and the audience. It has so keep in mind that this is a creature that steals the voice of creatures that it's killed, and think about that while you're listening to these lines.
It's hunting us! It knows what we're afraid of!
So you think of that. Um, he has obviously uh, killed some people who have figured out what he is, and it's chasing them down. Um, you've got this is a very good line.
Moves around at night.
So there's a really cool story going on with this character, with Fiddlesticks, where during his voice lines you learn this little story about a farm where there are people who were obviously being stalked by Fiddlesticks, and you can it's these characters who are talking about what he does, how it functions, what it does. He has lines like, "Who's out there? Show yourself." Um, they haven't come back from the fields. It's been 3 days. So there's all sorts of lines. For anyone who has watched Arcane, I don't know if you have, Coffee.
No, sadly, I haven't been able to.
I highly recommend it, and then listen to this line again.
Jinx! All your fault! All your fault!
He's got great interactions with champions within the game. So yeah, there's a lot of like you say, there's gonna be some disbelief in there. But I don't know exactly how it's gonna be done. This is gonna be a situation where an intended encounter for it would be, hey, there's this farmland, and we haven't heard from them for days. We think that there's some sort of, some monsters that have moved in. We think maybe like orcs or goblins have gone in there, and done something horrible. And then, they turn up and all the houses are boarded up, and you hear voices from behind the doors, and it's Fiddlesticks mimicking these people, saying, don't let it in, that sort of thing. Who's out there, and just saying all the sorts of things that terrified villagers would have said when they know that something is horribly wrong. Um, so, so Bountiful Harvest, yeah, it's gonna have some sort of, if you don't get away, it's gonna deal a bunch of damage. His third ability, at least for the video game, Reap, he slashes an area with his scythe. In terms of the game, it sort of creates like a larger energy field, and it extends outwards. Uh, it silences anyone in the middle and slows anyone on the outside of the arc, dealing more damage to the center, less damage on the outside. What sorts of notes did you have for this one?
That one actually reminds me a little bit of what we did with Aatrox, where you had a primary target and then
Yeah.
secondary targets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we really could play that the same way. I forget the name of Aatrox's ability at this point,
At the
but
Darkened Blade.
yes, the Darkened Blade. Uh, it'll probably work very similar to that. Now, the silence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's going to be really impactful. We definitely want that to hit, and I'm saying that from a resource management point of view. Um, while this is supposed to be a tricky monster, a tricky character to face, um, he's kind of only got like two or three actual tricks.
Yeah.
So anything that takes away the party's ability to deal with them, i.e., limiting movement, spell casting, fear, that stuff needs to hit, and it needs to hit often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even though as a player you might find that annoying, um, that this isn't supposed to be a trivial fight.
Absolutely.
This um, kind of manipulating player psychology there. You want the player to be just as scared as the character is.
Absolutely, yeah. So do you think that Reap is going to be, because every creature has a primary attack of some sort? Do you think this is going to be Fiddlesticks' primary attack?
Um, Definitely his primary melee.
Right.
Um, I guess it would depend. Like, say he's got the effigy out, right? Or
Yep.
he is the effigy, whichever. If players approach, he's not going to do anything until they get into reap range.
Mm-hmm.
He's just going to sit there and be patient. Um, if they start making distance, that's when he's going to go into his first ability there, the terrify.
Right.
Um, which actually brings up an interesting point. Normally, the way we've been structuring these action oriented these ability blah, 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 these abilities to where they're based on the actual character's abilities. He doesn't really have anything that's mobility.
No, he doesn't. His only mobility ability, and this sort of segues us into his ultimate ability. He channels for a short time, and then he teleports a short distance. And for the next few seconds, he's surrounded by a supernatural murder of crows. And that's the only thing he really has that lets him get around. And that's his big. We've talked about it before. The big ability for bad guys that are probably going to be beaten or neutralized in some way. It's their "I'm about to die. I want you to remember me." That's what these abilities are. So in game, what you'll actually do is you will find yourself, because of how his bountiful harvest works in the game, you'll find yourself using that a lot more throughout the game. Because what it doesn't say in this ability is if um, if it completes its full duration, or if the creature is tethered to it die before the duration ends, its cooldown is reduced. It goes on cooldown, but it's got a much lower cooldown than usual. So if you kill a bunch of people in quick succession, he can use it again and again and again within a few seconds.
Hmm. Okay. You know what we could do? We could borrow from like breath weapons and put that on a recharge, a D4 recharge.
Sure.
And then if it kills, it instantly recharges.
Or reduces to 0 hit points, D&D terminology, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it is called Harvest. You know, he wants to keep harvesting. So when it comes to Crowstorm, I feel like this is the easiest ability that we're going to be able to design for this stream. Because it's fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
He channels, he teleports, blah, damage all around. So I feel like that's going to be like an AoE necrotic damage ability.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Bunch of spectral crows just tearing at your flesh.
Yeah, the spell that comes to mind is Circle of Death. Um, that's what comes to mind for me. It's, you know, large radius, big explosion of necrotic energy.
Take a look at that.
It's yeah, it's certainly no it's a high level spell. I think it's a 5th level spell.
6th level, range 150.
There you go.
And it's a 60-foot radius, 8d6. That actually sounds just almost perfect the way it is.
8d6, huge radius around him. So naturally, we're going to be making him immune to necrotic energy.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, before we get started on the writing thing, something that isn't really well defined in this, it's more well defined in the game. When passively his fear ability. Passively, if you hit a target with one of your abilities while you are out of their line of sight, or in some edge cases, standing still as the effigy, and then someone comes up to you and you hit them with an ability, and you've been out of combat, which is this invisible timer in League of Legends, the game, that certain things trigger off of. If you've been out of combat and the enemy players haven't, and this is the game coding taking care of this for you, haven't seen you go into effigy mode, because naturally, as Fiddlesticks, when you're playing as him, if you just stand still for a few seconds, he takes up this kind of the same stance as the Scarecrow, T-posing, arms out, lantern dangling down. And if you hit an enemy with one of your abilities, it fears them. It automatically applies the fear, without you needing to trigger the ability actively. It's a passive effect.
Mm.
So that's why Fiddlesticks is so powerful for initiating a fight. Because if he initiates out of a bush or from somewhere where the enemy team doesn't see, he just appears in front of you and everyone's running in fear.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we might want to keep an eye out for. That might be his primer for his ult, where if an effigy is active, then it triggers the big fear for everybody. You get a fear, everybody gets fear.
I like it.
So, shall we do some writing?
Yeah, fire up the GM binder, man.
So we have medium, probably. He's going to be a medium creature.
Yeah.
Alignment, I feel like unaligned, because this is just a creature that exists. It has no motive except for make people scared. However, there is like an intelligence there, so I'm considering like chaotic evil.
Chaotic evil feels right.
Yeah.
He's not just a creature hunting for food. He's trying to instill fear. He's cruel. He's sadistic.
Mm.
And that
But not cruel and sadistic like we would think about it. Like we're going, yes, this is just what he does. This is how he was created. However, he was created, because in the original lore, he was created by some wizard and used as sort of like an executioner. But they kept him shut in this big tower cell, and they would throw people into this cell to be executed, basically. So, do you think this is medium fiend brackets demon?
yeah, Fiddlesticks the demon. I dig that.
Um, let's have a look at our lovely Dungeon Master's Guide to see what appropriate CR we need to go with here. What do you think about this creature? Do you think this is a double-digit CR, or is this a creature that they can encounter at low levels?
So I was on the fence about that, right? Before the stream, I rolled some dice because I mean we're doing D&D. I couldn't make a decision. Dice rolling, and I came up with CR 14.
CR 14. Okay. So that might be what we go for. 11,500 XP. Damage immunities, we've already decided on necrotic.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a CR 14 creature, that tells us that he needs to have an 18 AC
Mm-hmm.
and 266 to 280 hit points. That's a lot of hit points.
It is. It is. I would argue giving him a vulnerability to fire damage, though. I mean, he's a scarecrow.
Yeah, made of wood and bits and pieces.
So that comes with an attack bonus of 8
Yep.
and a average save DC of 18.
18. Woohoo. Let's write that down there. Terrify. Okay.
And for you guys at home following along, if you're trying to find what we're referencing, look at pages 273 through 283 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. That'll get you all the information you need. That's the entire section on monster creation.
Sweet. Do you think that his multi attack is gonna be uses Terrify and Reap on his turn? Like that's just what he does as part of his regular attacks.
I think personally he should be able to use Reap twice, Terrify twice, or a combination of one of each, just to give him some
Okay.
flexibility because uh, both are single, more or less single target attacks. I mean, you can hit 3 with Reap, but
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're going to be his lower power abilities. So
Yeah.
I think 2 per turn isn't asking too much.
Cool. Let's throw that in there. There we are. Languages. I think languages any that Fiddlesticks. Any that belonged to creatures that Fiddlesticks has killed.
That's fair.
He, he might turn up in the abyss and start speaking abyssal
Mm-hmm.
because he's killed a bunch of demons. Condition immunities.
Fear, obviously,
Yeah.
frightened condition. Um,
Charmed.
yes. Um, and I don't think this is it's not a condition per se, but this might be the best place to put it. Even though he's typed as a demon, which is an outsider,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think he should be immune to being banished
Okay.
because this is his home plane. you know,
Yeah. Senses. I think I think it should be something sort of like the Elder Brain for the Mind Flayers, where he can sense any creature with an intelligence of 3 or higher within, a mile.
yeah,
Because then, he's going to go hunting. He's just going to go hunting for the closest possible creatures. Um, Stats. The main part of this is because the proficiency bonus for a CR14 monster is 5, that means the highest ability score we can have that are applicable to his abilities needs to be a +3.
okay, so we're looking at like 16, 17.
16s and 17s. Yep.
Okay.
I think he's got low
Um,
intelligence. Because again,
oh yeah,
there is an intelligence, but there's not a lot to it.
if I only had a brain.
If I only had a brain.
Hey, there's some character motivation for him.
Give me your brains. It's more like, give me your brains.
Give me your brain.
Don't do that.
yeah, not doing that again. Bear with me a minute. I'm going to grab some water.
No worries. I'm considering a very high charisma. I would love for him to have like a 17 charisma because we've talked about this before, where charisma isn't necessarily people looking up to you or being friends with you or knowing you as a good person. It's just that you have a lot of presence.
Definitely tons of charisma for this guy.
So do you reckon we max it out at 17?
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that might be what his quote unquote spell attack is, because it's your personality that's being assaulted. But that might not be accurate. Because fear effects are usually go after your wisdom.
Right.
Do you think he's got a high dex?
Absolutely. I mean,
By the
if the
looks of,
trailer is
yeah, the end of that video, he moves pretty quick. So maybe 15 for now, and we'll see. Do you think he's got low strength?
average strength,
Average like
or
12?
maybe, yeah, maybe 14 even. Like he's definitely got some otherworldly fortification there.
Yeah.
He's definitely stronger than your average farm hand. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So Constitution. That's the next
I
thing.
think that's a low point for him. I mean, while he is supernaturally strong, he's made out of wood and straw.
Yeah. The main part of him is you see here. That is like the soul of Fiddlesticks there. When he dies, his death animation, that opens up and the thing inside it flies away.
Hmm.
I love these spikes sticking up out of it.
Yeah, it's wicked.
And he's got all of these different arms because he's cobbled himself together in this horrible, macabre approximation of a person. Like that's a leg, that's an arm, that's another leg, and that's an arm at the back with the scythe. There's this fantastic. It's a video by Ross Boomsocks where he talks about something that I didn't know about. I know about most of these trivia things he talks about, where uh before Fiddlesticks Reworked was released, there was a very small chance that when you were approaching a bush in game, um, a model of Fiddlesticks would come sprinting towards you and run past you in that twisted way that he does at the end of that video.
Hmm.
Um, and I love that sort of movement because I see it in horror movies and it's so effective because it's so uncanny valley. That's not how regular creatures move. So 10 con, what do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's about right.
So to get
Uh,
him to this amount of health, I don't know how we're gonna do that.
boy, that is a good question there. So we put him at CR 14. What's
Mm-hmm.
what's the low end of the health? 266.
266.
Okay, and the high end is 280.
Yes.
So that works out to be like 14d20.
14d20.
Yeah,
um. Oh, that's really
that is a
easy.
range for 14d20.
Okay. Um. Yeah, because that I mean, we're not going to use d20s for his hit die, obviously.
Yeah.
But also, this is, of course, the CR calculator where it's, oh yeah, 266 hit points. And I'm thinking, even at CR 14, that seems like it would be a bit of a slog. Because you're not going to be throwing
So
this at characters who are 14th level. You're going to be throwing this against a party that might have one 14th level character in it.
so maybe we base it off of D12s and put the high end at like 168.
Sure. 14d12, curiosity's sake, the average is 90.
Mm-hmm.
90 would be the average. Without any con modifiers. So I guess, I mean, again, the intended design of this, as with all things, is you look at that 90 and you can decide, you know what, I need a tougher Fiddlesticks, and you just give him more hit points.
Yep.
However, I know that there are plenty of people out there who go, but that's not what it says on the stat block.
But the rule of cool supersedes that. Whatever is best for the story, for
That's
your
right.
encounter, for your campaign, do that, not
Yep.
what's in the book.
Yep. I feel like his speed should be like 45. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was thinking somewhere like 45, 50, up there.
Because he's got that he's basically got that unarmored movement, which is what people like barbarians and monks have. And he's got 4 legs. He's got 2 arms, 2 legs. That are all in different, actually, has he got even more than that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like he has 7 limbs.
I mean,
Because
it,
this
it depends on where you see him, because I've seen images where he's just got 4 limbs, and then I've seen images where he's got like up to 8.
Yeah, because
Um,
his actual character model has 2 legs at the bottom, 3 legs at the bottom, and then 2 arms. So the canon is he has 5 limbs. So he moves quick. And because he's not carrying anything heavy, he's a very light creature. So yeah, I think 45 was alright. Um,
I'm gonna mute out.
Sure,
My roommate is doing some things.
no worries. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical sources. Skills, intimidation, +8. Um,
Acrobatics.
Yep.
Uh,
Um, what other ones
may,
are there? I think that would be it. Maybe stealth.
maybe stealth. Yeah. Maybe deception.
Hmm.
Uh, in conjunction with mimicry, make it a contested roll.
Yeah. Deception +8. Woohoo! Yeah, like when you're making that insight check, you are rolling directly against a skill. Let's bring back that 3.5 vibes. Okay. That's looking pretty good. What are his saving throws? Charisma, almost certainly.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
mean, he's kind of immune to everything that would be charisma based anyway.
yeah,
I guess there's specific spells that don't cause those conditions that might
that's
have
right.
charisma saving throws. Um,
So
I'd
maybe
say,
Dex?
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So for his wisdom, what do you think it is?
Uh, 10 or null.
Haha.
And I really feel that. Like, um, he's just he's a construct,
Yep.
basically. He's not.
That there is an
He,
awareness of his surroundings. Like, he
hmm
knows how to mimic people, manipulate people. So I wonder if we put it in the single digits.
Yeah, maybe set it to 5 like intelligence.
5? Sure, yeah. That is -3, isn't it? I didn't get that wrong.
Uh, see, 8 is 1.
I
Um,
think 5, 6 is -3. 7, 8 is -2. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, 8, 9 is -1. 7, 6 is -2. 5, 4 is -3. Yep, we've got it right.
yeah.
Cool. This is why I like learning the game. Because then we'll remember these things. Let's make sure that we keep this updated. Okay, abilities. Now for the fun part.
Yeah, boy.
The very, very fun part. So which one did you want to do first? Did you want to work on a harmless scarecrow?
We might as well. We might as well start there because you wanted to link that to all of the abilities in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what it does is kind of crucial.
A harmless scarecrow. So I feel like this isn't an action. Do you think this is a bonus action on his turn?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a bonus action.
So, as a bonus action, Fiddlesticks places a medium-sized effigy identical to itself. I want to use itself in these to really drive home that this is just a creature. So placing this, it's actually a lot further, it's actually a larger range than it's showing. It's more like here that he can place it.
Mm,
So I feel like that's 10 feet.
yeah, yeah. 10 feet works.
An empty space that it can see. Um, hmm. The effigy. I might actually do this to make it clear that is like a keyword. The effigy looks like a regular I'm going to use my own language here. A regular everyday scarecrow to any creature that does not inspect it closely using the search action. Um,
DC 18 because it's based off of what charisma.
yeah. On a Hold on, I need to look up what is the search action. Is it investigation or perception, or can it be either? We're about to find out. Let's see. Conditions, playing the game, combat, actions in combat. It is a wisdom perception or intelligence investigation.
Mm.
Um, if a creature um how are we gonna write this? with a DC of, what's that, 8, 13, 14, 15, 16. Although it does say, like, the CR shit says that it's supposed to be 18 DC.
Mm-hmm.
So 8, 19, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we can actually have charisma a little bit higher if we wanted to. Let's just say it's 18.
Yeah.
With a DC of 18. If a creature succeeds on their search action, they become aware that the effigy is not a mundane object and instead a sinister detects a sinister presence within it.
So I think True Sight or Detect Magic should negate the need for a roll here.
Gotcha.
And that brings up a good point. Let your players use their spells.
Yep.
Let them use their cool stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it breaks an ability once in a while.
It's, yeah, even if it's like a really powerful creature like this. Okay, cool. So they broke through the illusion. They still have to deal with Fiddlesticks. They're still
Mm-hmm.
going to have to deal with them. This is just one of the things that he can do, that it can do. Will overcome this automatically with detect magic, showing an aura of, what would this be? Illusion magic. Illusion magic.
Yeah, illusion or conjuration.
Oh, of
Maybe a bit of
conjuration,
both.
conjuration and illusion magic when inspected. Yeah, because hopefully, here's the thing about detect magic. All it does after you cast it, it tells you that there is magic. Then you have to use your action to learn what school of magic it is. I come across this all the time, and I've been guilty of it before. Detect magic requires an action to to learn what school of magic a particular aura is. And you got to do that for everyone. Obviously, if you're in sort of free form, you can just tell your players. But if they do this in combat, in the turn tracker, keep that in mind. So did I? No, I didn't. Whoops. I forgot to tweet this out. Do, 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 do. There we go. Tweet.
Mm.
There we go. That's better. Hold on. Alrighty. So we've got some pretty good stuff here. But how does this interact with Fiddlesticks itself? Does it have a combat application? Or are we just going to have it like an illusion?
So I think the combat application is kind of a if statement in the rest of the abilities.
Right.
If it exists within X distance,
Mm-hmm.
it does thing Y.
Gotcha. Just gonna put a bunch of these in since we're gonna need them, probably.
And, and there's nothing we've put no clause in here stating there can only be one.
Correct. He can have as
He can
many
have
as
an
he wants.
entire cornfield of them.
Yep. How great would that be?
I'd love that.
How terrifying would that be? You're just walking around like, which one of them is the real one? I should also. He needs to have a trait that, or he needs to have something in here. Um, um, but it needs a decent name because I want him to have an explicit ability, an explicit passive ability that he can hide as one of his effigies.
Stiff as a board.
Stiff as a board.
Yes. I'm weird. I'm sorry.
We
Leave me
we
alone.
might use that, but we might not. um. Does this
If on his
also...
turn Fiddlesticks takes no other action, he disguises himself as one of his effigies.
If Fiddlesticks takes no actions, and does not act with yeah. When standing still, Fiddlesticks. I feel like it should be under the harmless scarecrow ability, but I
Yeah,
don't know how
yeah.
I would
Actually,
write it
that
because I don't want it to just be on in combat. If Fiddlesticks has taken no actions and is unobserved for up to 6 seconds, which everyone knows is around, he takes the place of one of his existing effigies. But I reckon the DC should be lower if they're investigating him.
Oh yeah.
Because other people, they're rolling really high but not quite 18, and then someone rolls, let's say 16, and they're like, oh, that's weird. A 16 didn't do it last time. And it's like, and then you see the eyes open. Ah! We found the real one!
I think detecting him when you're within reap distance should trigger a reap AOO.
Yeah, like as it, yeah. Yeah. He automatically uses Reap as soon as you detect him. That would be cool, yeah. Um, if a creature is inspecting Fiddlesticks while it is posing as an effigy, the search DC is 16 instead, and Fiddlesticks uses its reaction to make a reap attack as an attack of opportunity as soon as it has been detected by another creature. Yeah. Yeah, that could work.
We might not even need to call it an attack of opportunity, truth be told,
Yeah.
because it already takes the reaction,
Mm-hmm.
so he wouldn't get any attacks of opportunity that round.
Right. Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
that it cleans it up, makes it smaller. I like it.
Cool. Okay. Let's work on Terrify.
Heck yeah, do
So
it.
this is his this is what makes Fiddlesticks Fiddlesticks. Well, it's one of two things. There's Harmless Scarecrow and then there's this. So naturally it's it's an action, so it takes its action. Um let's have
Range spell attack.
let's have a look at what the fear spells look like, because there's fear and cause fear. Um
Mhm.
30-foot cone. No, not really. We're not looking for that. We're not looking for AoE. Worst fears. Drop whatever it's holding and become frightened. While frightened, you have to dash. Cause fear is the higher. No, it's the lower level. You awaken the sense of mortality in one creature you can see within range. When you cast this spell, you can target one additional creature. Huh. That could be interesting. Okay. So this is pretty standard stuff then. So that's 60-foot range, whereas the other one was 30-foot cone. So I reckon this is going to be 60-foot range.
Yeah.
A creature within 60 feet of Fiddlesticks must succeed on a DC 18 Wisdom saving throw or become frightened of Fiddlesticks. For how long? In the game, it's I think it goes as high as about 2.5 seconds.
End of next turn.
End of next turn.
Um, bear in mind this also is a damaging ability.
Yeah. So is it their next turn or Fiddlesticks's?
Fiddlesticks is next turn.
Cool. Um, or take 1d4 psychic damage and become frightened of Fiddlesticks. Yep. Yeah. So it's not huge. It's not absolutely insane. Let's just make sure. Frightened. What exactly does frightened do? Disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls while the source of fear is within its line of sight and it can't willingly move closer. Yep, that's fine. Or maybe we should make them run. Maybe we should
Mm,
make them run. Maybe not the dash action. Um, because I like the idea of, like, even in their fear, they can still attack it, but they're going to be at disadvantage.
right. Well, I mean, they already can't close distance,
Correct. They can't get closer to it.
so like that already like completely incapacitates like fighters, monks, barbarians, most rangers,
Yeah.
at least the two weapon fighting varieties. So I really don't feel like they need to run from this thing.
Yeah. I think that we should put in a clause that Fiddlesticks cannot use Terrify on the same target that it did it on last turn.
Okay.
Because, one, that's how it works in the game. There is
Hmm.
if you look at the video, that ring around Garen, how it works in the game is all Terrify does when that ring is there, it's like a cooldown. They've already been feared within the last, I think it's 10 seconds. So all an additional usage of Terrify against them does is deal extra damage. That's it. That's all that happens.
Hmm.
So I think, and also to keep things fun, because nothing's, again, like we've talked about the stunned condition and dominate and stuff like that. It's the you don't get to play anymore button. Um, I like the idea of like Fiddlesticks wants to spread fear for everybody. It's not just going to focus on one person. Um, and it also helps the GM not just end up either intentionally or accidentally bullying one of their players.
Yeah.
Because, DC 18, that's no joke. You don't want the fighter to be like, okay, cool, I failed again. Cool, see you next round, guys. Great. And it just makes it worse and worse and worse. And everyone stops having fun. I might put it in here as flavor as well. Fiddlesticks wants to spread fear to as many creatures as it can. Thus, it cannot use Terrify on the same target twice in a row.
So, how do we tie this to oh Lord, a harmless scarecrow?
I think that it should extend the range. I think that he can use his effigies as proxies. So if someone's like really far away, but there's an effigy nearby, he can cast Terrify as though he were standing in the place of the effigy.
Okay. Okay, so like it's similar to how you can channel touch cantrips
Yes.
through familiars.
Yes. Because 60 feet is a fair bit, but I want to promote the usage of much larger battle maps where the wizard's like, that's fine, I'll just stay like 120 feet away and just start lobbing fireballs. Hey, guess what? There's an effigy nearby. Oh, well, yeah, we know which one's the real one. We won't worry about these things. It's just a harmless scarecrow. Guess what? It's not.
I like it.
If there is an effigy from a harmless scarecrow. No, we'll just put Fiddlesticks can use Terrify as though he were standing. It were standing. As though it were standing in the place of any of its effigies. That seems pretty good. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
I don't think that's confusing at all. It's still an action, so that no one's going to think that they can exploit it. It's still an action to use. Yep, 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 yep. Well, just in case, let's see how Find Familiar has it written down. Where is it?
I think it's within 120 feet. As long as the familiar is within 120 feet,
When you
you
cast a spell,
can.
your familiar can do it as though it. We might. I wonder if we'll use that language again. Let's see. Okay, let's pull that up. This can be the draft. If there is an effigy.
I mean, how often on a normal battle map are you going to be more than 100 feet away from something?
Yeah. Fiddlesticks can use Terrify as though it were standing. No, no, I think this is fine, actually. I think this is fine. I wonder if we do make it 30 feet. Just so that it makes it more likely that, because in the game, fear is not a long range. Like, that's the range there. It's like 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if we make it 10 feet, but then we have, he can create effigies as a bonus action on his turn. So if he wants to cast fear on someone but they're just out of reach, he summons an effigy, and then the effigy turns as though it's alive and casts the ability.
I like it.
Once again, it is not just a harmless scarecrow. Um, Within, let's go 10 feet, and maybe the effigy can be a 15-foot range, because that'll give him a 25-foot operating range.
Sounds good.
Yeah, because you don't want to double dip too much. Giving the high range to the really powerful fear ability, nah, that's too nasty. Okay. Next up, Bountiful Harvest. So how are we gonna write this one in? Take me through your notes again, and
Okay,
I'll jot
so
stuff down as you read.
with Bountiful Harvest, this one was actually the most straightforward for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a burst.
Right.
I'm thinking a 20-foot range. Um, it's concentration, and it deals a certain amount of damage each round until the target drops.
Oh, I
Um,
see. So sort of like Witch Bolt, for as long as you are tethered to Fiddlesticks, every round he's just gonna go nom 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 nom.
but unlike Witch Bolt, it's AOE. It affects everyone within range.
Yeah.
And I think this should work exactly like we made it work for Terrify. Um, he can do this from any of his scarecrows.
But of course, he can only concentrate on one of them at a time.
Exactly.
And the if actually will go. Looks like a regular scarecrow. Um, because I want to note it down that they have 1 hit point and like 10 AC. Because then
Hmm.
he uses Bountiful Harvest and it goes nom. Obviously, the players are going to say, "Can I destroy one of these things?" Yeah, you can. It's got 1 hit point. All you need to do is hit AC 10, which they're going to if they're fighting a CR 14, unless they roll a 1.
Can you cut through the haft on a rake?
So where would we write that?
um, Instead of writing it, how about when we finish this sheet, we put an effigy stat block?
Oh yeah, sure.
Or we could just, like, in brackets, write HP1 AC, like at the end of it, or at the first mention of effigy.
How's that? A medium-sized effigy, 1 HP, 10 AC.
Yeah, simple enough. Everybody knows what that means.
Yep. Cool. Right. So it's a burst from Fiddle. So, every creature within 20 feet of Fiddlesticks becomes tethered to. I should write down as like IT capital I, because then it's a lot more like Stephen King. Hold on.
While you're figuring out wording, I will be right back.
Self to every creature within 20 feet of itself. At the end of a tethered creature's turn, they take maybe like 1d10 necrotic damage. Fiddlesticks regains hit points equal to the amount rolled. Fiddlesticks concentrates on bountiful harvest as though it were a spell. A spell.
And I'm back.
Hello. So I've written Fiddlesticks tethers itself to every creature within 20 feet of itself, concentrating like a spell. At the end of a tethered creature's turn, they take 1d10 necrotic damage, which of course no one can say, well, what about Fiddlesticks? He's immune to necrotic damage. This is a null argument. Because I can see some smart-ass players like, well, he's a tethered creature, technically. Okay, cool. Well, I'll roll, and he'll take no damage. And Fiddlesticks regains hit points equal to the amount rolled. What do you think?
Yeah.
And then we have Fiddlesticks can use Bountiful Harvest from a position from an effigy as though he were occupying that space, regaining hit points.
There's something else I want to add to this.
Mm-hmm.
If this ability kills or drops a player to 0 hit points, put it that way.
Yep.
I think another effigy should spring up in their place.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, that's so good. But it looks like them.
Yeah, I was about to say wearing their clothes.
Oh, fuck. Oh, that's so macabre. I love it. And of course, when you destroy it, it just sort of dissolves, like in the video. Fiddlesticks can use Bountiful Harvest from an effigy as though it were standing in its place, also regaining hit points. And is able to regain hit points when Bountiful Harvest is used in this way. Just want to make sure that I've got my rules lawyering okay. If Bountiful Harvest kills a creature or reduces it to 0 hit points, an effigy appears in its space wearing the creature's an illusory
copy.
Copy. Because otherwise they're gonna be like, oh, cool, another suit of armor. Like, no, that's not what happens. And effigy appears in space wearing an illusory copy of its weapons, armor, of its equipment. And then,
although something could be said of him conjuring the effigy at that point, and then the effigy moving and stripping the armor of the downed character and then putting it on real quick.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
would be a terrifying narration. Like sort of like if you've seen the film Silent Hill, when the Pyramid Head like removes the skin of that girl.
hmm
It could be sort of like that, like unsheathing the Um,
So
uh,
to keep players happy, that may not be the way to go.
that's right. Players do not like getting their stuff taken away from them unless they have a very easy and obvious way to get their gear back.
Yeah.
It dissolves into useless ash. Maybe into charcoal, because then like our wizards in the party will be like, oh, charcoal. I need charcoal.
Charcoal and bits of straw. I like it.
I'll put worthless charcoal and bits of straw. The effigy looks like a regular. Da, 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 da. Okay, that's good.
hmm
That's good. I think that's good. That's it.
All right, we have one
Oh,
more ability to go
we do,
with.
and that's just his. Well, two of them. We've got his regular everyday melee weapon attack, his reap, um, reach range. Do you think we should go like 515? Because he's got that big extendo attack as well.
I mean, I would give it 10-foot reach as a pole arm because I mean it's a scythe.
Right.
Um, so 10-foot reach isn't out of the question. But any further than that for a medium creature just doesn't make too much sense.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's yeah. This is one of those situations where video game logic and D&D pseudo realism logic collide. So on a hit, how much damage is one of these things supposed to be dealing? These things
Um,
evidently have a damage per round of 87 to 92.
so that's the thing. All the abilities need to be scaled up in damage, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um, but if we're gonna base this reap off of a weapon attack, I think we should go for the halberd.
the halberd. Okay.
It's the closest approximation in fifth edition to a scythe, rather a war scythe. Um,
Oh yeah, because there is a
and that
scythe, but it's itty bitty.
yeah, the sickle.
Oh, the sickle.
1d10 slashing. Um, yeah. So maybe scale that up to I don't know
3d10,
3d10.
3d10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Using his dexterity or his strength.
It would be a two-handed weapon, so it would be strength.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to a handy dandy calculator, and we want to know what 3d10 is. The average 16. Technically, it would be 18 because then his strength modifier on top. It'll be slashing damage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the next thing that happens is, um, um,
Okay, so silence and then fear, right? Or was it a movement thing?
so the outer edges, so the 5 foot, the 5 foot spaces outside of the center, they just get slowed. They take damage and they get slowed, but the center deals extra damage and it silences. That's what the video game does.
Okay. So slow in this case. Are you thinking half movement or drops movement to 0 for the round?
I think half movement because Yeah, it would be pretty intense if, he hits them with that arc, drops them to zero, and if they've already got Bountiful Harvest on them and they've got no way to go anywhere, they're gonna feel like, I don't know. I know I would feel like, oh, of course, yeah. I'd be a little bit. I'd understand it afterwards, but in the moment, I'd be a little bit shitty. So I think that there should be at least a way to be able to go. You can at least start to uh, make um, some headway. Though I am considering just doing the not quite grappled, but lowering the speed to zero, because then they can still like be dragged. Freedom of
Hmm.
movement could be cast on them. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, Misty
I
Step, Expeditious Retreat.
I don't feel like taking away their movement is really that debilitating,
Uh,
especially if it's only for a single round.
yeah, that's right.
And it has to hit to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
It's,
Because
it,
it's technically up to three targets. And he's going to be making an attack roll for each one.
mhm.
Reap strikes.
As we found out with Aatrox, that doesn't mean 3 hits every round.
Correct. Yeah, well, that was also a white room situation. Um, okay. How are we gonna write this? When attacking with Reap, Fiddle, Fiddlesticks chooses a 5 foot space to be the center, and 2 spaces within 5 feet of the center, making a separate attack roll for each space. Because, of course, this is in 4th edition, so I can't just say squares. Um, and 2 spaces, 2 spaces adjacent to the center. Uh, on either side, because then he can't. He's not just attacking in a straight line. He can attack diagonally.
So that reads poorly.
Yeah.
2 spaces on either side makes it seem like it's 5 spaces. You can change 2 spaces to a space on either side, or that on 2 spaces on opposite sides of the center works too.
On
Yeah.
opposite sides of the center, making a separate attack roll for each space. A creature struck in one of the outer spaces has their movement reduced to zero. A creature until the end of their next turn. A creature struck in the center space, because that also slows them. So it's going to be, if we go with the extra damage, it's going to be triple effect.
Hmm.
A creature struck in the center space takes an additional 1d10. What's 5 slashing damage. As their movement reduced to zero, and cannot speak until the end of their next turn.
And I feel like instead of effigies being able to do this, I feel like they should grant advantage if they're within 5 feet of any of the targets.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I like that. Um, if there is an effigy within 5 feet of any of the targets, Fiddlesticks has advantage on the attack roll against them. Against that creature.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I think of it like if it's slashing damage, he's just slashed your throat, and the supernatural effect, it's you going as if your vocal cords had just been severed. And for the slow, it's moving through like your Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So last, but certainly not least, Crowstorm. Um, we're gonna put this here. There we go. Because we wanted to put we want to put it at the end. Because we want to order these in order of like importance. Like first things, it's his basic stuff that he uses, and the things later on are the big things.
Right.
So I'm gonna write out the League of Legends video game way how this works. Fiddle channels for X time, then teleports to a nearby location with a whirlwind of supernatural crows that damages the enemy. So that's what it does in League of Legends.
So how long's the channel
I
in
believe
League
it's
of Legends?
one. I believe it's 1.5 seconds.
Okay, easily doable within a round, so you treat it like spell casting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but with all the restrictions of spell casting,
Mm-hmm.
spell casting in melee, that's an attack of opportunity. Um,
Well, that's a 3.5 thing.
oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I keep going back to that, and I can't help it. It's just the better system.
It makes more sense. It makes way more sense. Someone's trying to cast a cure spell in front of you. Like, no, bro, I'm gonna, I'm gonna bop your hands.
I love that somebody's trying to cast Cure Light Wounds, and you just cut a hand off.
Yeah. So I think that this is the sort of thing that's like a raid boss, like it's telegraphed.
Mm-hmm.
Fiddlesticks begins to, um, what is some flavor text that we can do? Fiddlesticks draws in, um, a murder of supernatural crows begin to apparate. Is that purely a Harry Potter thing, or is apparate a real word in the real world?
Good question.
Um,
It's a real world word in Portuguese. Um,
apparate plural apparatus. From late Latin apparere, to appear, as of a servant who appears on being summoned. Let's see what Thesaurus has.
manifest would be a good word there.
Manifest, yeah. Begins to manifest around Fiddlesticks. Um, um, creating a looming a looming shadow of dread in a what is the radius of this that's going to be around him? Because it's pretty big. It is certainly not
60
small.
feet.
Did you say 60 feet?
Yeah, you could fit 12 fiddlesticks across there, easy. That's how I do my calculation for distance. How many of the character can I fit, and each one's a 5 foot square.
Am I thinking radius or diameter? Which one's the one where like it's actually bigger than you immediately think?
Radius is bigger than you think. Diameter is a straight line across. Radius is a straight line from the center to the
Oh,
outside.
okay. So 60 feet, that's huge on either side.
Mm-hmm. But you were talking about a circle of death,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's the radius.
And I mean, 6th level spell, that's a 12th level character. And this is a CR14 creature. So,
It's
reasonably, characters are going to have access to 4th, maybe 5th level spells when they fight Fiddlesticks.
mm-hmm.
Yep. Um, at the start of Fiddlesticks' next turn, um, Fiddlesticks uh, teleports to any space it can see within to any space it can see within 30 feet of itself, or to the location of one of its effigies.
Yes. You read my mind. I love that.
Because then, like, they see that happening and they're like, okay, let's run. They're running through the cornfields. They see all these effigies like start to move, and then suddenly Fiddlesticks is standing in front of them. Like one of the effigies like turns and is just, it's like you feel the evil fill the effigy and the real one appears in front of you. It's that,
Mm-hmm.
it's that you can't escape me. Um yeah. Yeah, oh my god. Oh, this is so much fun. Um
Unrelated note, can we have a horror game at some point? Like
I would love to. I
I,
so
I'm kind of itching for one.
I genuinely have a game that I think you would enjoy. It's called Liminal Horror. You play as real people in the real world. Uh, and one of the things that has come out, the game Control?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So it's like modern day supernatural horror. There's like modern day dungeon crawls where you're going for an office building and there's all these horrible things happening. There's like a mall dungeon crawl where there's all these horrible ghouls running through and you're trying to deal with the situation.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think I might have a little bit of a read through more liminal horror stuff. Um, upon teleporting, um, a 60-foot radius sphere filled with supernatural murderous crows. Actually, we can write this better.
Might need to. We're gonna get sued by whoever owns Hitchcock's stuff.
What's that?
The birds.
Birds! A looming shadow of dread begins to form around Fiddlesticks, filled with the with an ominous cacophony of crow calls. Would that be the name?
Oh. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what a good word for that is. Um, Screeches, cries.
With a screeching cacophony of crow, filled with a looming shadow of dread. Um, a shadowy. Because I want it to be like the iconic. I think. Because what does he do when he starts channeling it? He sort of leans back and he starts to
Mm,
charge it. He's like, "What?" Yeah, okay. Um, the cage in the chest of Fiddlesticks bursts open. Um, hold on.
Releasing a swirling mass of necrotic energy
Yeah.
filled with the spectral forms of screeching crows. I don't know words.
Holds a 60-foot radius with the cacophony of screeching crows. Um, During this time, for the rest of its turn, Fiddlesticks can only use bonus actions, and its speed is reduced to 0. Because that's the whole point of Crowstorm. The risk reward is that you stop moving for a moment to be able to unleash this really powerful ability.
Mm,
Yep. Because then, like, he does that, and it's like, yep, that's what it does. And everyone's like, huh? Okay, well, let's keep hitting it. Oh, you're welcome to. I think we do need to give it more hit points. I think we need to artificially bump up its hit points. I don't think 90's enough. Because again, if the players have access to 4th level spells at minimum, they'll wreck this thing in one round.
yeah.
So I think that Crowstorm should be a reaction when it reaches half health.
Yeah.
Because I quite like that mechanic. Like you've injured it to the point where it on some level these creatures and the player characters understand when they have reached a bloodied state. When they're like, "Oh shit, I just took a really big hit. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to go on." You know, I am aware on some level of my hit points.
Right.
Um, when Fiddlesticks is reduced to half of its hit points or fewer, yep. On teleporting, a 60-foot radius sphere centered on Fiddlesticks Um, upon teleporting, Fiddlesticks is surrounded by a 60-foot radius sphere of necrotic energy and supernatural crows. Yeah. Any creature within the radius must succeed on a. Do you think this is a Constitution save? It's gotta be, right?
Yeah.
DC 18, baby. That's what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
DC 18
I think it,
Constitution saving throw.
and I think it should be saved for half.
Yep, makes sense. Any creature within the radius must succeed on DC 18 Constitution saving throw or take 8d6, was it?
That circle of death, yes.
Yep. Or take 8d6 necrotic damage. Taking half as much on a success.
It's already tied into the effigies, so we don't have to think of a new thing to do there.
That's right. Okay, that's good.
Uh, so adjustments definitely bump up the hit points.
Yeah.
I'm thinking double,
Double? Yeah.
double.
If we go like that. Yeah, the hit die averages don't make any kind of. It would need to be like 30d12 to reach close to 180 is the average.
Unfortunately, hit points get broken after a certain point.
Yeah. So I wonder what dice would give us 180 as the maximum.
Mm.
It would
Uh,
be. Where's my calculator? 80 divided by 15 times 12, does it? So maybe it's 15d12. But
yeah,
we'll just go 15d12, but we'll be like, hey, guys, he needs to have a lot of hit points. Oh yeah, we never did this. Are we gonna get rid of it?
we did do that. It's built into Harmless Scarecrow now.
There we go. It takes the place of one of its existing effigies. Actually, to use Terrify or Greep. As soon as it has been detected, Fiddlesticks will use either Terrify or Reap.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it in alphabetical order. Cool, that's good. That's good. Alright, for how long does Crowstorm last?
If we're basing it off of Circle of Death,
It's basically instant, and it goes away at the end of his turn.
Yeah. I think we should make this very impactful, though. I think we should add a clause to it. If a creature is dropped to 0 hit points by this ability, they die, fully restoring Fiddlesticks' HP.
Oh, okay. I was with you until the second half. That second bit seems pretty over. Like, I get it, but that's a lot.
Oh, okay, well then just the dead part then.
I reckon I reckon he kills them, and he restores hit points equal to maybe half of their maximum.
Yeah, yeah, that works.
And
Now you're starting to discover the kind of broken stuff I used to throw at you guys.
and any creature that is reduced to 0 hit points and not killed outright. Any creature that is reduced to 0 hit points is killed. Um, restoring, restoring, restoring hit points
Restorting.
to Fiddlesticks equal to the dead creatures. Equal to half of the dead creature's maximum hit points. The other way that I was going to do it was that it's literally like a jump scare, because that's kind of the meme about Fiddlesticks. He jump scares you.
Mhm.
I was considering just making it that when he appears, Terrify gets used on everyone at the same time.
Okay, that's interesting.
But yeah, I wouldn't put that in at the same time as this. If you get reduced to 0, you die.
Yeah. See, I'm on the fence. I like high stakes games. I
Yeah,
like I like player death always being on the table. Um, because honestly, if players know that, they make smarter choices with their characters.
yeah. I wonder if we'll put in like, hey, here's the hardcore version, and at the bottom of this, we'll put in one of those notes. Note block? Information description block? I'll go note block. Um, oh, what the fuck? What happened? We want it to be there. Um, jump scares. First, what we'll need to do is go page break. Jump scares. The design of Storm as written is to pose a deadly, extreme challenge to characters that go up against this relentless, terrifying avatar of fear and death. Bringer. We've already got a harbinger. Um, we've already got our avatar of death. For a less I'll just be meta here. For a less save or die vibe, you may, if you suspect that your players will be upset with sudden death at the hands of dropping to 0 hit points from Crowstorm, you may want to replace that effect with the following, and we'll give them the so how is it written here? So we'll go upon teleporting, yada yada yada. Da 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 da. Upon teleporting, Fiddlesticks taking half as much on a success. Um, um, get the spacing right. Upon teleporting, Fiddlesticks is part of the upon teleporting, Fiddlesticks uses Terrify on every creature within a 60-foot radius. I just need to think a little bit harder. It's uses Terrify on every creature within a 60-foot radius. And they must also succeed on a DC 18. So the only change is that instead of the dying, they just get Terrify used on them.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely works.
Because I would love to use the you might die, but certain groups, especially modern day groups, are not a fan of save or die, or not having all of the information, even if they haven't gone looking for that information in the game, and they just expect things to be handed to them. Anyway, so I want to give people an option, like, hey, if you just want to, while still being in the spirit of things, maybe I'll do it around the other way, actually. Because the death thing is actually less like what Fiddlesticks does. Like I said, the meme of it is that he is a jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I might swap it around. Crowstorm. Extra deadly. Is to capture the essence of what Fiddlesticks is in League of Legends. A horrifying creature that can quite literally jump scare you. You may want to raise the stakes a little further if your group is the kind that likes extreme challenges or prefers much more gritty experiences in or less of a jump scare meme vibe. If you suspect that your players will won't feel challenged enough, or if you simply want to raise the stakes more, consider replacing the Terrify aspect of Crowstorm with the following. So now we go grab that and put that there. We grab that, and we put that there. There we are. Cool. That should be good.
This has been a good one. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like this Fiddlesticks a lot. So, to recap, kind of strong, kind of quick, 45 feet of movement speed, 180 hit points, AC 18. Because, like, what are you going to hit? You can tear apart the cloth of Fiddlesticks' sort of outfit all you like, but that's not Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks is that little cage, that little entity in the middle. The rest of it is
Mhm.
just its form, which you can hit and start breaking it down, but start falling off, and that can be the representation of losing hit points. But otherwise, he's going to be pretty hard to destroy. Oh, we ought to, because this is a problem with a lot of this stuff. Traits. Um, Supernatural attacks. Um, all damage dealt by Fiddlesticks is counted as magical for the purpose of blah 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 blah. There we go. Now players can't argue with the GM. So he's got supernatural attacks. He's CR 14. He can speak any language that belong to creatures that he has killed. He's immune to being banished, immune to being charmed, immune to being frightened. It can sense any creature with an intelligence of 3 or higher within 1 mile. It's multi-attack. It uses Terrify once and Reap twice on its turn. I think that's pretty good. Crowd control as well as damage and crowd control.
Mm-hmm.
Reap, it is technically a melee weapon attack with 8 plus 8 to hit and a 10-foot reach, and it can attack up to 3 targets, dealing around about 18 damage to each creature. When attacking with it, it's like an arc, not quite a cone, it's an arc, a free space arc. Anyone in the middle is going to have a real bad time. They're going to take a little bit of extra damage, they can't move, and they can't speak until the end of their next turn. Everyone on the sides just takes 3d10 damage and can't move. But you can still drag them or shove them. Freedom of movement, expeditious retreat, dimension door, misty step. There's a lot of options. Terrify, which is the quintessential. It's what Fiddlesticks is. A creature within 10 feet of him has to make a DC 18 Wiz save or take a little bit of psychic damage and become frightened of Fiddlesticks until the end of Fiddlesticks' next turn. Fiddlesticks, don't worry, players, we're looking out for you. Fiddlesticks cannot fear you twice in a row. But he can use it as if he was standing in the place of any of his effigies. So stay away from them. They are not harmless scarecrows. Bountiful Harvest. Yeah. Bountiful Harvest, very, very fun. Don't stick close to Fiddlesticks, even though that's what you need to do to kill him, but this is why he's so dangerous. He tethers himself to you. We might need to write down that, like, once you pass... we didn't actually do it. We need to write down that it breaks. It breaks. Let's see.
Can either break his concentration or leave the range.
That's right. If Fiddlesticks Bountiful Harvest ends on a creature on all creatures if Fiddlesticks has its concentration broken, and ends on a single creature if that creature moves more than 20 feet away from Fiddlesticks after having been tethered. Because otherwise, like, I can see how some people will be like, oh, after he's used it, will it just automatically attach to someone? Like, no, 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 no. Like, if you're the wizard and he comes close to you and he's used Bountiful Harvest before, you're going to be okay. It will not automatically tether to you, although that could be fun. That could be fun for, like, a hard mode Fiddlesticks.
Right.
So Bountiful Harvest is basically like Witch Bolt, if Witch Bolt was any good. Um, D10 necrotic damage, it's not that crazy. What is the average for a D10, by the way? 5? Yep, 5. So let's write that in. I don't know why you would want to use just the averages for Fiddlesticks, because you want to be rolling that high rolls on 8d6 with his Crowstorm, right? And he regains hit points, so that's very dangerous. Staying close to him to kill him, it's going to be hard to do. And that's just at the end of your turn, so it's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. No save. Break the tether. I highly recommend it. If you are killed or reduced to 0 hit points, an effigy appears in your space wearing an illusory copy of your equipment, so that's fun. If there is an effigy nearby you, be careful, because Fiddlesticks might suddenly decide, oh, delicious, hello. Reactions, Crowstorm. I quite like having the big abilities happen with a reaction, because it's always, that's the thing about these sorts of solo monsters, they need to be able to do shit on the player's turn.
Yeah.
So once you reduce Fiddlesticks to half of his hit points, run as far as you can, or kill him very quickly, because it will channel for 1 round. You'll have a round to finish him off, basically. That's basically what's going to happen. Although the fun part is, if Bountiful Harvest is still active, it's going to keep healing him. It's going to keep healing him. At the start of his next turn, which is frightening, because if you reduce him to half hit points right before his turn, that's not going to be good. Actually, what we'll do, because it's not ready for the rest of its turn, while in this state, Fiddlesticks can only use bonus actions, and its speed is reduced to 0. There we go. That's better. Because then, there's no attacks of opportunity, there's no reactions, there's none of that stuff. You are free to run. At the start of Fiddlesticks' next turn, so whenever that may be, Fiddlesticks teleports to any space it can see within 30 feet of itself. Not very far, is it? But what if there's an effigy nearby? Well, he can teleport to that effigy's location. What I might write down, this is why we do the recaps, or to the location of one of its effigies. Destroying it. There you go. Because he literally takes the place of it. It destroys that effigy. It is now him. Upon teleporting, he uses Terrify on everyone, because the whole meme of Fiddlesticks is that he jump scares you. And they must also succeed on a DC 18 Constitution saving throw, or take 8d6 necrotic damage, half as much on a success. Pretty standard design there. What I might do... Oh, that's right, because the base one doesn't have this death that is in the alternative. So if you want to be extra deadly, instead of having it be a jump scare, just have it be that, well, or maybe both. What do you think, Coffee?
I honestly, keeping it as an optional thing is nice. As far as both, one or the other's fine.
Cool.
Whether it does the mass fear or not.
Yep. because it's still a little bit of damage as well as that fear effect, so he might get yet another round to be able to mess with the characters.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it uses Terrify on everyone, deals a bunch of damage. The bread and butter ability, again, I thought this was going to be a really basic, boring ability, but it turned out to be a really crucial part of it. I feel like that could be a kind of fun thing for actual League of Legends to do. Like if you have a bunch of effigies placed around, you can cast from their location.
Hmm.
Harmless Scarecrow, he places an effigy with 1 hit point, 10 AC, you can easily destroy it. A peasant could hit 10 AC. Identical to itself within 15 feet in an empty space that it can see. Uh, when an effigy is destroyed, it dissolves into worthless charcoal and bits of straw. It looks like a regular scarecrow to any creature that doesn't inspect it closely. So to inspect it, you have to inspect it closely using the search action with a DC of 18. True Sight or Detect Magic will immediately tell you that there's something fucky with it. Detect Magic will give you Conjuration and Illusion Magic. Um, you you instantly become aware, if you succeed on this check, that it's not a mundane object, and instead you detect a sinister presence within it, and then you can go about doing to it what you wish. Um, Fiddlesticks can take no actions and be unobserved for up to 6 seconds, and he can just take the place of one of his existing effigies. Um, I think Fiddlesticks can pose as an effigy. Fiddlesticks itself can pose as an effigy. Um, Also looking like a regular scarecrow, much like other effigies. But if a creature is inspecting Fiddlesticks while it is posing as an effigy, well, the DC is less, is easier to hit because there's something here. And Fiddlesticks uses its reaction immediately to use Reap or Terrify as soon as it has been detected. Which of course implies that it knows when it has been detected. And that's it. That's Fiddlesticks.
Sweet. Well, had a lot of fun with this one. I've got something to throw at you, sir.
All right.
I have a request for one of two characters to do next.
Okay.
This was given to me by someone we role play with. I'll tell you outside of the stream who it is, but
Cool.
um, either Ari
Yeah.
or Jinx.
Jinx would be interesting because Jinx is one of those characters that we can make her fairly low CR, but still interesting to
Hmm.
fight because she's a girl with guns. There's nothing supernatural about her. She's just really good with guns.
Yeah, I'm kind of down for Jinx too. Nothing against Ari. I just honestly the whole like Japanese fox person thing just doesn't do it for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's certainly a creature that could be done, but she's also kind of a good guy. She's not really a an adversary that you would commonly come up against. Whereas Jinx, in a League of Legends setting, if you go to Piltover, then Jinx is probably going to come after you for some reason, through by whim, or just because you pissed her off, or just because she feels like it. You might get into a fight with her.
So you down to do Jinx next week?
Yeah, I think Jinx is going to be what we do next week. We might be able to, because she's going to be a low CR, and so there might be less design that needs doing. I wonder if we could knock out Caitlyn and Jinx. You know,
I'm so down to do a 2-for-1.
yeah, like the two gun girls. And also we'll cash in on that arcane crowd. Haha.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it, everyone. Thank you very much. Anyone who may have watched or is watching or will watch. We have a ton of fun with this stuff. It's so cool. I really want to use this I really, much like Shaco when we did him, I immediately wanted to engineer a situation in my D&D campaign where my players have to fight him. So very quite genuinely excited by all of these things that we're doing. And that's why we do these things. You know, why do we create cool stuff? Because we think it's cool. That's why.
I definitely see a Horrors of Runeterra campaign in my future.
Yeah, well, you could have Fiddlesticks, you could have any one of the Darkin, such as Aatrox. Aatrox is one of the Darkin. You've got Varus, you've got Kane, um, you've got. People argue about whether or not Brand is Darkin. I don't think he is. Brand would definitely be super interesting because he's a full-on spellcaster. Full-on spellcaster. Definitely, I would say like a CR8. I think. Definitely a creature that would be the ending of like a campaign one,
Yeah.
or not a campaign one, like book one.
Stuff's gonna get hard after this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Coffee, for joining me.
Oh, no worries, man. I'm down anytime. You know that.
Hell yeah. And everyone else, peace out and be good to one another.
Bye bye.